There's $1 billion being invested in AI per day. And the reason is it's the most powerful, most impactful technology on the planet. Is it scary? Of course. But I'm not concerned about artificial intelligence. I'm concerned about human stupidity.
What about just the job loss in general? A lot of what you thought you were good at is now going to be done by an AI.
Ultimately, we're going to retool the jobs, and people are going to start to do things at a higher level than ever before. The issue isn't that we're going to find new ways to occupy ourselves and be relevant. It's the speed of the change. That's what's different today. We need visions of the future that are compelling and hopeful. My goal, my desire is that we can create a world where every man, woman, and child has access to all of the food, water, energy, the most advanced healthcare, the best education on the planet.
You seem like you're probably the most excited, happiest, busiest you've ever been.
I wake up every day and it's an extraordinary adventure, and it's like, okay, let's see what today has in store. We're going to have ups and downs, always will be. For me, it's living a life of gratitude, creating a life of abundance, helping people create a purpose-driven mindset, an abundance mindset, because your mindset is the most important asset that all of us have.
Hey, I know investing in crypto is scary. It takes a real leap of faith because there are so many scams, rug pulls, and bad actors out there. It's a dangerous business, which is why 95% of people lose all their money. Well, that's why I created the London Real Investment Club, so you can access the hottest deals on the planet and use the crypto bull market to create the generational wealth that you deserve. Join my team of over 100 people from around the world that are making millions of dollars behind the scenes investing in blockchain, AI, Web3 games, DeFi, Bitcoin, and more. Don't miss out. Click the link below to book a call with one of my team now. But hurry, this bull market will end soon.
I know investing in crypto can be scary. That's why you gotta join the investment club. Pull the trigger. Let's do this.
The world is changing. Inspiration is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs. Sharing our vulnerability. Overcoming our fears. Transforming ourselves so we can transform the world. How far can we go?
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is...
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Peter Diamandis, the entrepreneur, philanthropist, author, and world-renowned speaker. You've spent your career backing bold ideas, from private spaceflight to robots on the moon to extending the human lifespan. You started over 20 companies, written 3 New York Times bestselling books, and were named one of the world's 50 greatest leaders by Fortune magazine. You're also the founder and executive chairman of XPRIZE Foundation, where you've created over $300 million in global prize money over the last 30 years, working to solve humanity's grandest challenges, from decarbonization to lunar exploration to AGI safety. You've said that aging is a disease, and one that we now have the tools to treat, thanks to exponential breakthroughs in gene therapy, cellular reprogramming, and diagnostics. You ultimately believe that the convergence of AI, robotics, genomics, and nanotech will not just disrupt industries, but redefine what it means to be human. Peter, welcome back to London Real.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, thanks. It's the most incredible time to be alive. I'll just correct one item. XPRIZE right now, we're up to $550 million in prize purses that we've offered that have driven probably about $10 billion in R&D. Very proud of that. We've launched our third $100 million plus global incentive competition. So lots going on.
Yeah, I love that. And I really want to dive into this latest one. I was watching that trailer earlier today. It's super exciting and super relevant. You know, I just turned 54 years old. And so, you know, I guess it's a little more relevant maybe the older you get. And of course, my parents are getting older and this stuff starts to really resonate as far as the longevity. So look, I really want to jump into that. I checked, Peter, our last conversation was almost 2 years ago. And I think at that point, I was asking you for the state of the union of artificial intelligence. And so I wanted to check in with you real quick and kind of find out, how do you think the last 2 years were? Do you think that we've come about as far as we thought we were coming? Do you think there's more danger or less danger? You know, we've recently read the headlines. I think the Anthropic CEO just came out with some headlines trying to kind of shock people a little bit, saying that AI could wipe out half of all the entry-level white-collar jobs. He thought the companies and the government were sugarcoating the risks. We've had the AI godfather, Yoshua Bengio, that said some of the models are lying to users. You tweeted out recently talking about how the OpenAI models can resist shutdown and sabotaging kill switches. But you also, Peter, are always the guy that says, look, I'm super optimistic. And this, if we see these things, we can also counteract these things. Where do you think we are right now, Peter?
Yeah. So I think it's been an extraordinary 2 years. I think that the speed has played out as expected, but it's real now. You know, 2 years ago it was theory. Today we're on the verge of the release of GPT-5 from OpenAI, Grok 3.5. We just saw Gemini 2.5. All of these are just numbers and names. They're effectively different AI systems being put out by these hyperscalers. There's $1 billion a day per day being invested in AI. And the reason for that, and it will scale up to 3 billion a day or a trillion per year over the next 5 years. And the reason is it's the most powerful, most impactful technology on the planet. There's nothing more valuable than intelligence. If you think about what differentiates us as humans, we're not the strongest animal on the planet. We're not the fastest or have the ability to fly. We're the ones that have the greatest intelligence that, by applying that intelligence, allows us to overcome all other life forms on Earth. And that power of intelligence has just gotten massively democratized and amplified. We just saw 2 years ago, probably around the time we were speaking last, that the first AI model showed an IQ of 101, which is by definition above 100, or the median IQ for humanity. Today, the IQ of the top large language models are in excess of 135 IQ. Will be reaching in excess of 160, super genius IQ, probably by the end of the year. So it's extraordinary. And for those who have watched too much Hollywood motion pictures and Terminator, it's scary as hell. Is it scary? Does it have the potential to do harm? Of course, as with any technology. The challenge is that we as humans always see the problem out there and we accelerate the problem all the way to today. And we don't realize that between the time that the problem actually occurs and today, there is time, and we respond to it and we fix it. And so ultimately, how do we deal with the dangers of AI? And there are dangers. But I think of it as, I'm not concerned about artificial intelligence. I'm concerned about human stupidity. So the biggest issue I see in the near term is the dystopian use of AI by malevolent individuals, right? It's not the AI, all of a sudden taking control of our nuclear missiles and taking us out. So how do we deal with all of that? Well, we're going to deal with the use of AI by malevolent individuals by using AI to track what's going on, to catch that early on. Anyway, so let me pause there.
Well, what about just the job loss in general? I mean, I had my 21-year-old daughter in the office today, and she's an undergraduate now, and I just said, look, in 2 years when you go for jobs, a lot of what you thought you were good at is now going to be done by an AI. And I said, you better start being a good AI prompter. But like, we see the video now, we see people uploading their x-rays into ChatGPT and getting great diagnoses. We're seeing the video that's coming out, Peter, and it's hard not to try to think, well, there's going to be some significant job loss, and it feels like everyone's sleeping on that. Is that something?
Yeah, listen, I think 10 miles from here is Hollywood, and if I were a executive at Hollywood, I'd be scared shitless right now, given what I've seen from the VO3 videos. I mean, they're extraordinary.
Yeah.
And so, yes, there are going to be job losses and job reinventions. It's hard to see it today, but every time there's been new technology that transforms, in the banking system, the concern was that the ATM was going to decimate bank tellers, and we were going to lose all the bank tellers. Well, there are more bank tellers today and more ATM machines than ever before. The same thing in the financial world when Excel and VisiCalc and all those things came out. Ultimately, we're going to retool the jobs, and people are going to start to do things at a higher level than ever before. The issue isn't that we're going to find new ways to occupy ourselves and be relevant. It's the speed of the change. That's what's different today, right? There used to be a population of individuals who used to go around. The job descriptions were, I was a lamp lighter, right? Kerosene lamps, and someone would go around every evening and light the kerosene lamps down the streets. That job obviously has gone away. And I think if you went back 100 years or even 30 years, many of the jobs that exist today would not have been recognized. So we're going to reinvent jobs. We're going to reinvent what people do with their time. Other thing to point out is most humans on the planet are doing work that they don't actually love. It's not their purpose in life to do what they're doing, to, clean hotel rooms or wait tables. They're doing that because that's the job they could get to put food on the table and get insurance for their family. So the question becomes now, what do those individuals empowered by AI and technologies dream of doing? How do they up level what they're doing to something that they desire? I think we're going to need to have some version of UBI, universal basic income, as wealth begins to get concentrated in the hands of small groups of individuals and companies because of AI and humanoid robotics, which we should also talk about.
Yes.
And we're going to need to figure out how that capital gets redistributed. And then with that money, how people begin to reinvest in themselves to do things that have higher value to them, allow them to fulfill their dreams, to have a more purposeful life.
Do you foresee a future 20, 30 years from now where, people are working 4 hours a week, or people are just doing very limited work, and there is so much abundance created by the AI that the ecosystem works and the economy works, and like you said, people are just going deeper on things that give them more joy?
I do. I mean, this was the topic of my first book back in 2012, Abundance: The Future is Better Than You Think, laying out this notion that technology is the force that takes whatever was scarce and makes it more and more abundant. Elon has jumped on that bandwagon, as has Mark Andreessen and a whole slew of, Sam Altman. They get the abundance theme right now. AI and humanoid robotics are going to create a massive uptick in global GDP because we're going to be able to produce far more with far less labor and far less cost. But that increasing GDP is now going to have to be redistributed to individuals who then use that capital to pursue their desires. There's an Indian I don't know, call him a mystic, a gentleman by the name of Sadhguru. You may know his name.
Yeah, I've had him on the show.
And I love his thinking. And we were on stage together at a summit in St. Petersburg, probably about, I don't know, 8 years ago. And he said something I'll never forget. He said, technology is the means by which humanity takes a vacation from survival. So for most of human history, our job was to survive. That was our job. This last 100, 200 years where we have jobs like, podcast host or financial advisor or, chief AI officer. These are recent inventions of jobs, but historically it was, where do I get food? How do I get shelter? How do I, help my child who's sick? That was survival. That was our job, survival. And technology has allowed us to take a vacation from surviving and to pursue a higher calling. So, I think about that a lot. And can AI become the wind under everyone's wings? I, for one, the work that I do, my goal, my desire, my heartfelt belief is that we can create a world that uplifts every man, woman, and child, where every man, woman, and child has access to all of the food, water, energy, the most advanced healthcare, the best education on the planet. In the same way that, these devices, and there are more, cell phone subscriptions on the planet than there are humans. These devices enable us to have AI in our pocket, which is our best diagnostician. So everyone's got the best healthcare at some point very soon, and the best education, right? It's Aristotle is your son or daughter's personal teacher. And that becomes an extraordinary world. I think every mother wants a world where they know their kids are going to get the best education, the best healthcare, and can pursue their dreams.
I think I was talking in Dubai to Mo Gaudet, ex-Google X.
Yeah, Mo's a dear friend, yes.
I love Mo. And again, I had him on a couple of years ago as well. The same year I had you on, just to get the State of the Union on where we were. And I think he mentioned to me, he said, Brian, the entire economy is driven by consumption and consumers, and America's a massive consumer. But, if those people are soon on UBI, he said, yeah, we'll make more productive things with the robots, et cetera, but who's going to consume it? And I was just wondering if that's something that's on your mind sometimes, because we might not have that really deep consumer base that are buying all of these things. And I'm just wondering if that's something that comes to your mind sometimes.
Well, I think we're going to consume, but what we're going to consume is getting demonetized substantially. So, for example, healthcare today is super expensive. The U.S. spends more than any country and has like one of the lowest levels of health compared to it. But and I'm in this business, I'm in the business of delivering the most advanced healthcare on the planet through one of my companies, Fountain Life. And so I understand the economics of it in detail. The expensive part of the healthcare system isn't the blood test. It isn't even the MRI. It's the physician's time. It is the human labor there. But we're going to head to a point where, we talked about this a few minutes ago, the best diagnostician, the best physician on the planet is in fact an AI that cost is effectively zero. It's not too far from now where the best surgeon on the planet isn't a human. It's a humanoid robot running one of the most advanced AI models. And this humanoid robot, has seen every possible surgical variation and is tuned to see in infrared, ultraviolet, in microscopic detail, far more than any human can. So in this world, the cost of consuming healthcare, the cost of consuming education, demonetizes to near zero. And we then consume far more of it. So for example, right, the Kodak is my proverbial example. We used to buy cameras and buy film and pay for film to be developed.
Peter Thiel took $500,000 and turned it into $1 billion using the exact same techniques we're using inside the investment club. He met a CEO, his name was Zuckerberg. He pitched him the deal and he said, okay, I'll give you $500,000. Mark went public and sold the shares to people like you. Well, what happened to Peter? Well, he exited and got a 2,300x return. The wealthy invest in early stage companies, folks. The public markets are for suckers. It's a rigged game. By the way, this happens in crypto as well. It's called pre-sale tokens. This is Solana. Does anybody know this chain? They sold pre-sale tokens for 4 cents. And you can see the date on there, April 5th, 2018. Look at Solana today, folks. That thing's up over 1,000x. The media and Wall Street and all these hype people get you to buy the top. Meanwhile, they put their clients in at the bottom and they use you for liquidity to make their clients rich. You can play this same game. You just have to have the financial education and the deal flow. That's it.
And now it's free. And we, instead of, one point, we're producing trillions of digital images per year and increasing, probably now tens or hundreds of trillions of images, because it's demonetized in cost. And so we're going to consume a lot more because the price of that and the quality is going to go up, driven by technology.
Look, I want to jump into robotics, but just to finish with AI, what do you think the next 5 years look like? I think people have stopped talking about AGI because I think, as Altman said, it's not necessarily a fixed point in time, and the definition is kind of amorphous, and we're obviously making massive progress that people can kind of see this all happening. Well, what do you think things look like in 5 years? Do you think we'll still have kind of these big five that you mentioned, kind of the Anthropics and the Metas and the OpenAIs that are kind of really leading the charge? Do you think China will start playing in? Do you think there'll be other decentralized models? How do you think that plays out?
Yeah, so there's without question, we'll still have, Microsoft and OpenAI and XAI and Meta, DeepSeek out of China, and other fast followers in China will rise to the occasion. And Google, I think Google is going to dominate once again, but we'll also have new approaches. I think, the current version of AI based on the transformer models and GPUs will run its course, and we will use AI to create new versions of AI that are far more energy efficient and that are able to approach intelligence from a different perspective. And there are different groups out there, but the fact of the matter is it's going to continue to accelerate at an expanding rate. This is an accelerating technology because AI is used to create better AI, just the same way we used to use computation to create the next generation of computation. And we had this exponential. It will continue to grow exponentially. And I think our ability to predict past the next 3 years is like zero. It's a singularity, so to speak. We can't see beyond this horizon. When I speak to, folks out there like Elon and other leaders in the field, again, if they're honest, it's like, okay, I can see out 2 or 3 years, but then after that, it's really hard because the breakthroughs that are going to be in the adjacent universes are truly unpredictable.
But you're optimistic regardless.
I am optimistic. I think at the end of the day, the most intelligent individuals and the most intelligent systems are peace-loving. Listen, I'm supporting Mo on one of the documentaries, Mo Gadot, one of the documentaries he's doing based on his book, Scary Smart, which is in production right now. And, I think that we're going to have a turbulent time for a 5 to 7 year period. And that turbulence is a result of malevolent actors. I don't think it's U.S. versus China. I think it's U.S. and China versus, rogue actors out there looking to cause disruptions for whatever reasons they have, either mental disorders or religious or whatever the case might be. And we need to stay frosty, if you would, stay, fine-tuned. And that's going to be using AI to identify those individuals and take them down before they do harm on a large scale. In the long run, as we develop, and yeah, I agree, AGI is a undefined term at best. But there is, artificial superintelligence, where AI is orders of magnitude more intelligent than human beings. And when I had Elon on my stage at the Abundance Summit, we talked about his prediction was by 2029 or 2030, AI was as intelligent as the entire human species. We can define that as digital superintelligence. That will come. There's no ceiling on how intelligent AI can get, relative to humans. Our intelligence is landlocked by our skull, right? 100 billion neurons, 100 trillion synaptic connections, and our skull is landlocked by the width of our mother's birth canal. Right. So we're not going to be moving that up, but we will be connecting our neocortex of our brain, the outer layers of our brain, to the cloud in the same way that my cell phone, when it does something very difficult, it doesn't compute on the phone. The phone collects the data and it goes to the edge of the 5G cloud. The computation gets done there and the answer comes back to my phone. I think we're going to end up in a scenario where, in the same way, if we want to understand a quantum physics equation and inherently visualize it, that may take place not in our brain, but in the cloud, where the answer comes back and we see it in our visual cortex. But that's a different story.
It's exciting times. All right, let's jump into robots. There was this headline on Bloomberg News a couple days ago that said China's startups race to dominate the coming AI robot boom. And it said Elon Musk worries the country will eventually lead in the field of humanoids. He's obviously been talking a lot about this. You've been talking about a lot this for a long time with the robots. I know he has plans to manufacture them and can see somebody having their own robot for like a $20,000, $30,000 price tag, I think, in the next few years. And then one day there being more robots than humans. But what's your take on this? I saw something at one of the airports that I was in. I don't know where I was, Singapore, and the robot was just tinking along and just doing its little thing. It was pretty low level, but I asked myself, like, isn't this weird, or shouldn't this bother you, or what will this look like in 10 years? And it was just had me think. But what's your take on it, Peter?
So we're finally there. We've been playing with humanoid robots for some time. After the Fukushima nuclear reactor failure occurred, and it was impossible because the radiation levels to send a human in to turn things off. An effort was put in place by DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, to develop robots that we could send into harm's way to go do these things. And if you go back and look at the robots coming out of that program, they were big, they were clunky, they were actually funny. They would just tip over and fall. And it was sort of like, America's Funniest Home Videos type of episode. But things have changed. It's not the mechanical systems per se have changed, though the electric motors that power our drones and the material science and all of that has made the robots become much more robust and capable. But it's the AI systems that are making the humanoid robots really viable today. These robots will be physical instantiations of these AIs. So when you have PhD level AI intelligence and it embodies a robot, and that robot sees you do something, it instantly can replicate what you're doing. In medical school, it was watch one, do one, teach one. Mm-hmm. And I think, we can imagine that happening in the robots. So where are we? There are probably about 60 to 70 well-funded humanoid robot companies. What I mean by that, 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, looks like a human, somewhere in the 4 foot to 6 foot height range. They vary immensely. In the US, there are probably, 4 or 5 major robots. I just put out you can Google Metatrends humanoid robot report and my name, and you'll see it. You can download it, and it looks at, I think I looked at the top 30 companies there. But in the US, Tesla with Optimus is definitely, number one, maybe number 1 or 2. Brett Adcock with a company called Figure AI is at the same level as Optimus, and I'm an investor in Figure, an investor in Tesla. But then there is Apollo and Digit. There is Boston Dynamics, which has been one of the leaders in robotics for ages, with Atlas, which used to be hydraulic and now is full electric, is doing amazing work. So we have these, humanoid robot companies in the US, but China is neck and neck. Maybe it's even more advanced, because what's happening is that China is creating robotic training grounds. They're creating giant research labs where all the humanoid robot companies go, and they share knowledge, and they develop new capabilities and new software. And China needs it desperately, because of the one-child policy left them without enough workers to sustain their economy. I mean, the Chinese economy was a low-cost labor economy, but now the cost of labor is going up. And if they want to be able to compete in manufacturing, it's going to have to be through automation or humanoid robotics. So let's look at the numbers 1 second. As you mentioned, both Tesla, both Elon and Brett Adcock project a cost of a high-end humanoid robot, right? We're talking human level or greater intelligence and capability, costing a purchase price of $20,000 to $30,000. Let's call it $30,000. If you want to lease that, you can imagine leasing it at $300 US dollars per month, which is what? It's $10 a day. It's 40 cents an hour. So 40 cents an hour for labor that works 24/7, doesn't have a fight with a girlfriend or boyfriend, doesn't have to do drug testing, never complains, and is, capable of doing almost anything you ask it to, because it's got a level of intelligence that is extraordinary. So the question is, if it costs you $10 a day, $300 a month, how many of these would you own? I mean, just do the thought experiment a second, right? It is the most extraordinary in-home labor, outdoor gardening, all of these things. You can imagine that the average individual might own 2 of them or more if they want to put them to work. So when Elon says, I interviewed Elon on stage at FII in Saudi, and I said, so Elon, 2040, how many humanoid robots are there? And he said, his estimate was 10 billion.
Wow. Why do I laugh out loud at that? It seems so, because I can't imagine how exponential this future is, right? That's 15 years.
So, I asked my friend, what is it going to feel like when you see humanoid robots walking down the street, getting in the elevator to deliver something alongside you? And his answer was telling. He said, it's going to feel normal. We adapt so rapidly. So here in Santa Monica, Waymo is operational. This is Alphabet's autonomous car service, which is very rapidly scaling. My kids just had their birthday, and part of what we did was we put them and their friends in some Waymo rides just to have the experience. But there's I'll see 20 Waymos on the street per day. I don't drive that much. And the first time you see them, you're taking photographs. Oh my God, that's so cool. You're looking in to see, is there a driver in there, a safety driver? There's not. And after a while, you just ignore it as natural. And we just adapt very quickly to these things. I remember the first time I saw somebody with in a Bluetooth earpiece talking to themselves, walking down the street. And I was like, is that guy crazy? They look really well dressed to be a crazy person. But they're not. They're on a Bluetooth connection. And again, we don't think of these things now. We change and we adapt and we accept things as normal.
Wow. 10 billion is what Elon was estimating. But I was just thinking to myself, like, my parents live in suburbia in San Diego, and how many robots would they want? Well, they would want 4 or 5, right? To do the prep for the cooking, to do the gardening, to all these things, and for those prices, yeah, it beats human labor by a long shot. And I guess makes some more humans, redundant or maybe powerful if they can tell the robots what to do. And so where do you come in with this? Are you in the past, you've talked about this, and have you done XPRIZes before as well to promote robotics?
We did an XPRIZE to promote telepresent robotics, where you are a human driving the robot at a distance. And that was executed and awarded. But I think the current levels of AI have overcome that. It's unlikely you'll have a human mind driving the robot. You'll do that during training of the robot, but at some point, the robot has enough capability, enough knowledge base, having seen every permutation of gardening or every permutation of surgery, or every permutation of cooking and cleaning the house, that it's able to fully autonomously operate on its own. And all you would do is, I hate to use the word prompt here, but it's like, hey, instead of bacon and eggs this morning, can I have my protein shake? And it knows exactly what you mean and how to make it to perfection.
Right. And do you think the shape will become humanoid when in fact it could be so many other things? Or do you think because it's compatible with the current design of the real world, it makes sense to be humanoid?
I've had arguments with my best friends on this on my Shots podcast, and I'm clear that it will be humanoid because it is a little less scary for people versus something with 6 arms or a centaur torso walking down the street. And yes, it can crawl under a desk and it can reach into a cubbyhole that your hand normally goes into and pull something out. My wife and I were arguing about, I need to replace a very fragile light bulb in the ceiling. And I was like, yeah, but the robot will do that. And she goes, no way. And I was like, yes, it will be able to. And so, it's going to be sequential improvements of how it's eye-hand coordination and the agility and sensitivity of the sensors. But I don't think there's going to be anything that we humans can do that some next generation of robots, is it 10 years from now? Probably, that a robot can't do.
Will it have human features and hair and eyes and simulated skin? Or does that make it more creepy or less creepy?
No,
or again,
I think that makes it more creepy and throws it into what's called the uncanny valley. Okay. I think that these robots are not trying to pass themselves off as human.
Okay.
I think they are humanoid in that regard. I mean, guarantee you there will be some generations of robots that aspire to be as human looking as possible. But those will be probably in other industries, whether it's sex working or whether it's acting or whether it's, I can imagine someone in memory care facilities having a robot that looks familiar to them, and having a humanoid covering that looks like their past, spouse or their children would make a connection closer for them. So there will be reasons that you might try and pass yourself off with a neoprene, perfectly shaped face covering, but the majority of robots will be clearly robots and not try and mask that.
What the London Real Investment Club actually does for you, it gives you the keys to open that door to the inside deals. In the last 3 weeks, I've participated in 3 incredible deals: a layer 2 Bitcoin protocol, an incredible AI protocol. The deal flow is beyond what I expected. I don't think I've ever seen a model like this that just gives average folks the opportunity to be behind the deals. And that's exactly what we've done. Not only that, you get to hang out with Brian Rose every week. And for me, that was huge, because I look at Brian as somebody who's not only an expert in the space, and I think is on the leading edge, but just the leading edge of thought with London Real and the work he's doing there. To anyone who's taking a serious look at this, I know it's a big decision. It was a big decision for me and my family, and it is one of the best decisions I've ever made. So I wish you all the best and hope you come join us.
Maybe it's organic tissue in the future.
Yeah. Jim Cameron has prepared us for that dystopian future.
Yeah, but then again, it is a weird singularity, and we don't know what we normalize to. So who knows? Maybe in the future, people will get comfortable with it, and they'll just say, "For God's sakes, just give them a face already." But to be seen. I guess that's another real singularity that probably isn't even getting much press right now. Just the fact that we might be surrounded by more robots than humans. That's another thing to deal with.
You used the term correctly, and I just want to take a second to describe that.
Yeah.
Ray Kurzweil famously wrote the book "The Singularity is Near," and then a follow-on called "The Singularity is Nearer." Not the most imaginative title out there, but when you ask what is a singularity, and it borrows the term from physics, where a singularity has this event horizon out of which light cannot escape. And the way people should think about it is there is a moment in time that I can't predict what's next, that the world is moving so rapidly and there's so many more new inventions and so many new interactions and capabilities and adjacent universes or adjacent business ideas, or adjacent technologies that haven't been created yet but will be created, that it's a effectively singularity. I can't see beyond that moment in time. And there will be a singularity around every field, because I can give you a pretty good understanding of where health and longevity is going to be over the 5 to 10 year time frame, but I can't tell you 20 years out. AI, I don't think I can tell you more than 3 years out. Robotics, probably 5 or 6 years out. And so these are these event horizons beyond which, there is so much at play, so many different directions it could go. I wouldn't dare to guess.
I got a phrase that I repeat to myself every day: trust in the unknown. And that allows me to keep going forward with vigor. Peter, you were quoted as saying that longevity and AI are the 2 multi-trillion-dollar markets coming our way. More importantly, they're the most transformative for society. Can you talk about that? And maybe that dovetails into your current XPRIZE.
Yeah, sure. So we've talked about AI. AI, as I said, is getting an investment of $1 billion a day. Very soon it will be $1 trillion per year. And it is giving birth to a multi-tens of trillion dollar industry. Much of the GDP is going to be driven by AI. If you think about the global domestic product today, it's about $110 trillion. Half of that is labor. So the total addressable market for AI-driven robots is potentially on the order of $50 trillion. That's why, Elon has said the biggest business that Tesla will do isn't in cars, isn't in cyber cabs, it is in humanoid robots. And I believe him. I mean, that's why I'm invested in Tesla, not for them as a car manufacturer, them as a rideshare, a cyber taxi, cyber cab company, but again, as a humanoid robot company. And then, of course, AI.
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description below.
Hey, I know investing in crypto is scary. It takes a real leap of faith because there are so many scams, rug pulls, and bad actors out there. It's a dangerous business, which is why 95% of people lose all their money. Well, that's why I created the London Real Investment Club, so you can access the hottest deals on the planet and use the crypto bull market to create the generational wealth that you deserve. Join my team of over 100 people from around the world that are making millions of dollars behind the scenes investing in blockchain, AI, Web3 games, DeFi, Bitcoin, and more. Don't miss out. Click the link below to book a call with one of my team now. But hurry, this bull market will end soon.
I know investing in crypto can be scary. That's why you gotta join the investment club. Pull the trigger. Let's do this.